sorry, I'm a bit confused because we are moving house today, and tomorrow I may
really?
go to jail. So it's really very confusing sometimes. And we have just moved yesterday, and so
right.
everything is quite confusing. So it's okay now, huh?
예, 내일 선거를 앞두고 있으신 바쁘신 시간인데 인터뷰 응해 주셔서 감사합니다. 내일 어떤 좋은 결과가 있기를 바랍니다. 그런데 내일 그 선고를 받게 되는 항목들이 어떤 위반들인지 그것부터 좀 여쭙고 싶네요.
But I have 4 trials, and all the 4 trials is about what the title is under the Public Order Ordinance. Organize and take part in unauthorized assembly. And there are another charge coming about the trial is for May 17th. Apart from organizing and take part in unauthorized assembly, they put another charge of incitement. Incitement. So usually there are all these charges is about one thing. The police banned the march, and I call upon the people to come out to march, and then I lead the march. So all these are about leading the march in 2019. I think you remember the 1 million, 2 million march. All these are authorized, so the police do not ban. But afterward, they are afraid of a large crowd gathering and large number of marchers. So they ban all assembly after the 1 million, 2 million one. And we still say that the people have the right to march. So we come up with a face, and then the police, of course, can identify us, and we are being charged with organizing and take part in an unauthorized assembly. So if imprisonment term, the highest is 5 years. So we do not know what will happen, but I don't think it would be that high. You know, I think with 4 trial coming, it would be very difficult to escape a certain 1 year or more of imprisonment.
예, 하여튼 내일 선고가 하여튼 잘 좋은 결과 이렇게 감옥으로 가지 않는 그런 결과가 되기를 바랍니다. 한국이나 홍콩이나 어디서나 감옥에서의 경험은 좋은 경험이 아닙니다.
Yeah, but still, like our Korean brother and sister, going to jail is part of the struggle.
오케이. 제 소개를 먼저 드리면 저는 한국의 인터넷 약간 뭐 좌파 매체 레디앙의 편집장이고요. 한국의 이전에 진보 정당들에서도 역할들을 했지만 지금은 주로 이런 인터넷 매체 활동들을 주로 하고 있는 정종권이라고 합니다. 오케이. 먼저 질문을 드려가죠. 바쁘신 것 같으니까. 예, 범죄인 인도법 추진으로 촉발된 홍콩의 민주화 시위가 2년을 이제 넘어가고 있는데 지난 2년은 민주화에 대한 홍콩 시민들의 열망을 보여준 기간이기도 했지만 보안법 제정 등 홍콩 반환 이후 중국 공산당 정부의 직접적인 통제와 탄압은 오히려 더 심화되는 시기로 보여진다. 이 지난 2년을 어떻게 평가하는지 그 범죄인송환법, 인도법은 폐지되었지만 보안법을 활용한 탄압은 오히려 더 심해지고 있는 상황인데 그 탄압의 양상에 대해서도 좀 구체적으로 알려줄 수 있으면 알려주시기 바랍니다.
You know, yeah, I think the position is only a spark. That spark of the protest, because the social contradiction is already there. I mean that you know, after 1997, after the handover to China, it was already 20-something years, but still there's no progress in democracy. So people are very angry, frustrated, because you know, up to 2019, the system is still the same. Only half of the legislative council being elected, no universal suffrage for the chief executive, no progress at all in democracy. So it's not just the extradition bill, it's the anger, the frustration against the Chinese Communist Party for delaying democratic reform in Hong Kong. And also, there's another crisis, is that there's the identity problem. People of Hong Kong feel very proud to be Hong Konger, but then the government keep on telling you that we have to go to China for a job, to integrate with China. So another underlying problem is that Hong Kong high autonomy was being attacked and also compromised. Mikyung, am I going too much? You want to translate?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
So
yeah.
this,
but I will cut here.
Yeah, social contradiction. Yeah. And then you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then the extradition bill come, symbolize what we in Chinese we call the extradition bill, delivery to China bill. So it's a symbol that I talk about social contradiction. People are afraid of the Communist Party suppression, and then this bill aims to send you back to China for trial if you are seen to be a criminal, and you can be a political criminal, and therefore it threatens the freedom. So the extradition bill symbolically represents the fear of the people of the Chinese Communist Party suppression, and therefore the people come out so strong. Social contradiction, the symbol of sending back you to China for trial, and then the people want to preserve Hong Kong, want to fight for democracy and freedom. So they all come out when the bill was being introduced in LegCo and we have a big march on June 9th with 1 million people, and then on June 16th with 2 million people coming out to march. And then what happened is a very interesting social movement debate is that the younger generation believe that just to march, the government do not listen. So what to do next? So they decided to go on the street to confront the police and to have blocking a road, and then they was tear gassing the people, and the people fight back by having petrol bomb, and so it become more and more confrontation with the police. So it's split into two branches. One we call the peaceful non-violent branch. The other we call the braver branch, those who are courageous to go to the street. So two branches go on together. And then we say that, be water, meaning that, and also to support each other. So the social movement split into two branches. And then with that splitting into two branches, it's okay, because, sort of complementary to each other. But then the Communist Party is so angry about all this, and so angry with the fact that on November 2019, they lost all the election of the district council level. They get only about, we get 80% and they get 20%. And they are so angry and so feel that they are out of control. And therefore they need to control. So I will go to the control part next, so that Mika, you can talk about movement in the first part in a very nutshell.
예, 그 송환법 반대를 계기로 한 그 시위 양상, 폭발성, 그 열정들은 뭐 한국에서도 많이 봐왔던 것 같아요. 홍콩의 야당들과 시민단체들이 한데 모여서 이 홍콩의 행정정부와 중국의 중앙정부에 나름대로 이 격렬하게 저항을 해왔는데, 근데 최근에는 일부 야당과 시민단체가 해산을 선언하고 있다는 소식이 들려서 이 민주화 운동이 와야 되는 거 아닌가라는 라는 약간의 뭐 우려 또는 걱정 또는 뭐 궁금함이 생겼습니다. 이런 그 야당의 해산, 시민단체의 해산이라고 하는 것은 한국 사회에서는 잘 익숙하지 않은 풍경인데 그 이유와 배경이 무엇인지 궁금하며, 더불어서 말씀하셨던 송환법 반대 투쟁 같은 경우는 하나의 대오였지만 그 내부에서도 어떤 지향, 이념, 이런 스펙트럼이 좀 다양하게 있는 것 같은데 사실 그 부분들은 해외에 많이 소개되어 있지 않은 것 같습니다. 홍콩 민주화 운동 내의 어떤 이 이념과 지향에서의 스펙트럼이 어떤지 좀 궁금하고요. 덧붙여서 이 그 홍콩 같은 경우에는 뭐 중국 중앙정부도 마찬가지고 홍콩 내부에서도 마찬가지고 외국에서도 이 민주화 시위에 대한 뭐 영국과 미국 등 외국의 영향, 이런 문제에 대해서 좀 예민한 것 같은데 이 문제에 대한 홍콩 현지에서의 어떤 고민과 생각은 뭔지를 듣고 싶습니다. 예.
Yeah. So I have already given the background about the protest and how it go on, and the victory of the district council election, the Communist Party, and the actions and of the protest movement also shocked the Communist Party, and therefore, what in Chinese we call, maybe I should write it to you, Mikung, in the future, is called, I don't know whether you have it in Korean, called revenge after the autumn, or reckoning after the autumn. So it's like
autumn.
When
what is autumn?
It's a time to it's the reckoning time in the Chinese emperor state time. So so it's now after the 2019 movement over into 2020, then they started to reckon. And what they did, several fronts. One is arrest and prosecution of all the activists, most of the activists in the 2019 movement. So 12,000 people are arrested, 2,400 have been prosecuted so far, and I think 700 was already convicted. So it is a large number of arrests and prosecution. So that's a retaliation, and many of the young people are charged with riots, which is far more serious than my crime, so-called my offense. Because the starting point of a riot sentencing is 4 years starting point, so it may go to 6 years. So a lot of people had already been jailed. And the second reckoning or second big retaliation is was the enactment of the national security law by the National People's Congress in China. Everything done in China. And what they did in the national security law is very simple. They list out all the things they hate in Hong Kong, and they put a name on it. Like there are 4 crimes under national security law: sedition, separatists. So those who call for Hong Kong independence, and then even if you are non-violence, because they say that violence or non-violence, you will be still charged with sedition. So they hate that and they do it. And the second crime is subversion. So anything that wants to so-called using illegal means to overthrow the government, including the Hong Kong government. So when we shout for the downfall of the chief executive, is it subversion? And then thirdly is collusion with foreign power. So this again, talking to foreign government, asking for criminal sanction, asking for sanction of the Communist Party or spread hatred of the Communist Party, will be charged with collusion. And that is a part where the CTU is also worried about, is our international connection. And then the other separation, sedition, collusion, subversion. Yeah, there's one more. Terrorism. Terrorists. Yeah, terrorism meaning that if you use some means to again try to block the road or try to attack the government officers, then this is terrorist. So then it would be even more worse. And then there's the national security law is designed in such a way that you cannot have bail, no bail. And that way is Carol come in. I want to explain Carol case and also Carol, our chair, take part in the primary election in 2020. So 600,000 people come out to vote to decide who should be the candidate, and everyone have to respect that decision from a pro-democracy camp. But then also we call for the voting down of the budget according under the base law. You are allowed to do that, and so that to put pressure on the government. But now they turn it into subversion. Conspiracy, the charge against Carol is conspiracy subversion. Conspiracy to subversion meaning that because you take part in primary election, you want to overthrow the government. But you have no action. You only take part in a primary election. And then there's where the bail come in. You cannot get on bail. So Carol is innocent. There's no, he is being only charged, no conviction, but she had to go to jail. And then the jail can be long time because the without bail, the case can go on for 1 year. So you can sit in jail for 1 year before your case is being really on trial. So that is very frustrating. So what I'm trying to say is the national security law with all this thing is designed to tackle the problem that the government face. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party hate and do not want to see in Hong Kong, and they put it in the national security law. And of course, this law now, had of putting people in fear. They are now trying to rule by fear because then anyone now can be charged with national security law and have a very, very serious sentencing, imprisonment term. So that is the part of national security law. Maybe I stop at here, then I can go to other aspects like the election changes that the Communist Party try to do.
이런 정도의 탄압 내지는 어떤 민주화 시위, 표현의 자유, 집회에 대한 이런 뭐라고 하죠? 이게 탄압과 법적인 제재, 이 선례가 없는 거죠? 홍콩에서는?
Yes, this is unprecedented because in Hong Kong we have fighting against the national security law over since the handover, because since 1997 we have been able to fight back on any attempt to legislate on national security law. But then this time we cannot fight back because it was made in China, not in Hong Kong. So in the past, when we have a very strong movement against national security law in Hong Kong, and the government in Hong Kong do not dare to introduce national security law in Hong Kong because they are afraid of the strong opposition. But now, because they are doing all the dirty job in one off, they become they don't care about opposition, and they use suppression to political suppression on all the opposition, and therefore I think in a way they are ruthless, and also they are determined to total control Hong Kong, and therefore now they are using the brutal forces of the state machinery, state apparatus, to suppress. At the same time, introduce it from Beijing. So in the past, we have fought against that for many years, but this time they introduce it.
그 두 가지 질문인데, 그러니까 어쨌든 1997년 중국 반환 이후의 흐름들은 알고 있는데, 그러면 우리 리채경 선생은 홍콩 반환 이전에 그러니까 영국 통치하에서의 홍콩에서도 노동운동과 이런 여러 사회운동을 적극적으로 하셨던 분으로 알고 있는데 그러면 그러니까 중국 반환 이전에 그러니까 영국 점령하에서의 홍콩에서의 노동운동, 표현의 자유, 이런 시위 또는 뭐 진보적인 어떤 이런 지향에 대한 그 마찰, 갈등들은 거의 없었던 거냐? 이게 하나고 두 번째는 이 중국 반환 이후에 지금 왜 베이징 정부가 이렇게 홍콩에 대한 어떤 통제력을 바짝 강하게 조이고 강화하려고 하는 이 어떤 정세적 배경이 뭐라고 생각하느냐? 두 가지를 묻고 싶습니다. 다른 말로 하면 선거에서 예를 들면 자신들을 지지하는 친중 성향의 투표 이런 부분들이 조금 더 다수였으면 이렇게 속된 말로 빡세게 안 쪼으려고 했던 거냐? 그게 아니라 지금 시기에서 홍콩 베이징 정부는 홍콩에 대한 통제력들을 선거에서의 어떤 그 문제를 넘어서서 홍콩의 정치 경제에 대한 어떤 바짝 쪼아야 될 어떤 필요를 느끼고 있는 것 같다. 강박을. 이게 뭔지가 궁금하다. 이거죠. 두 가지지. 하나는 영국식이.
Yeah, I get it. So the first question is was that about the before 97. So before 97, we started to fight for democracy in Hong Kong in the 80s. When I just started. And apart from labor organizing, I also participate in the democracy movement, fighting for democracy, or what we call the first election of Legislative Council. There's no election at all of the Legislative Council. So we won the first one. And the movement is called 1988 Direct Election Movement. And it started in 85. But then the British government banned it. They say no. And the reason for that, now it was discovered in the archive of the British government because Chinese government opposed it. So imagine in the 80s already, the Chinese government know that democracy will be threatening to them. And therefore, they already say no at that time. And the British sell us out. It's a complete sell out. They surrender to the Chinese government and say no in 1988. So we are frustrated in 1988. So that's the first important movement that to show that British government is also is also a partner of the Communist Party in suppressing democracy in the very early years. And the second major event in Hong Kong that changed Hong Kong is 1989, Tiananmen Square massacre. And that movement also changed Hong Kong because there's a 1 million march at that time. So in 1985, when we fight for direct election, there's not many people that agitated or not strong enough in a way. But 1989, 1 million people come up to march support, and it showed the sentiment of the people. So, but too bad, the British government only agreed to increase the number of Legislative Council elections from 10 to 18 out of 60. So it's very small improvement. And therefore, before 97, people of Hong Kong is starting, at that time, after 89, people of Hong Kong is starting to be agitated about political reform, democratic reform, and starting to participate in political election in 91. But all this continue up to after the handover, and up to the handover, there are gradual change in the election system, but the gradual change is very slow. Only in the 2004, the year 2004, there are half and half, half direct election, half what we call functional constituency. And it all go, as I've said, 20 years of frustration. So no changes ever since. So that's the part of the political reform before. And the second part about the the underlying picture or background of the suppression. I think firstly, I think Xi Jinping rise to power is very important sign of a different era for the Chinese Communist Party. Xi Jinping want to not just in Hong Kong, but Xi Jinping already silenced all the civil society in China, and many, as Mika understand, many labor organizations in China was all being dissolved by the and under surveillance. The individual activists under surveillance by the Communist Party. So in China itself is very tightly controlled already. And with the big data, the control is even more. So when they tightly control China, then coming to Hong Kong, they find out that Hong Kong is very now rebellious against China. And therefore, they are very angry with Hong Kong. We oppose the national education. And we have the umbrella movement in 2014. The umbrella movement occupied for the government near the government office for 79 days. And so they saw already that Hong Kong people are very now rebellious and what they call anti-Chinese Communist Party or even anti-China. And in this background, I think the extradition bill that even show more to the Chinese Communist Party that we are threat when we go out on the street, when we talk to parliamentarians outside of Hong Kong, I mean in Europe and America, asking for sanction of China, so they and the Hong Kong government. So they have all this. They feel that they are too much. And the second background is economic. Economically, they are so strong now compared with 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So I would say the usefulness of Hong Kong had diminished. And also, Xi Jinping put political control, put a priority of political control over economic growth. So therefore, and also Hong Kong usefulness had gone down. And then now they are calling for the, what they call the Big Bay Area, Great Bay Area economic zone, which include Hong Kong, a small one, and then the whole China and Macau, Guangdong province and Macau, 9 cities. So they want to integrate Hong Kong into China, and therefore making Hong Kong more like China, and lose the Hong Kong economic usefulness, because they want to absorb the money from Hong Kong to China. So economic usefulness had gone down. So I think that's what I'm trying to say is that politically hardline, economically they don't think Hong Kong is so important anymore. And then they are now also fighting against want to be a world leader. And then they want to fight against intervention in the China internal affair. And Hong Kong is a China internal affair, so they are taking this line. I hope this is clear.
뭐 시진핑 시대에 들어와서 더 중국이 이 절대 권력화되고 전제주의화되는 경향이 강하고, 그런 시진핑 체제로서는 손을 봐야 할 약간 뭐 체제 불안적 요소, 그중에 홍콩이 가장 좀 심한 이 불안 요소다, 이런 측면들은 이해가 됩니다. 그러나 홍콩의 경제적 유용성이 떨어지기 때문에 오히려 이렇게 탄압을 한다기보다는 거꾸로 중국의 어떤 경제적 성장의 속도가 좀 완화되면서 오히려 홍콩, 마카오 등이 가지고 있는 금융 중심지로서의 어떤 이 중요도가 더 커지기 때문에 얘들을 꽉 지으려고 하는 거 아니냐, 중앙정부가. 약간 그런 의미에서는 조금 다음 기회에 좀 더 들어봤으면 좋겠다. 오늘은 다 못 듣더라도 약간 그거는 퀘스천 마크다라는.
Yeah, okay. I can understand, but I don't really know, because from what we observe is that they also feel that even with the suppression, the finance center or financial role of Hong Kong will continue. Because what is happening now is lots of people is leaving Hong Kong. I think the emigration is more than that of '89, and there are lots of people wanting to leave Hong Kong, so the professional will go. But I think the Chinese Communist Party believes that, okay, the professional will go, but the money will not go. I mean, the big finance capital will not go. And then even if the professional go away, they can fill it up with Chinese professional. So that's a problem now, is that, they maybe, to answer the question about economic usefulness, I think firstly, they do not, I think they put political consideration first. But secondly, they believe that even with the political suppression, the economic situation economic usefulness can still be in place, even if the professional have gone.
최근에 들리는 말로는 일부 야당들이나 민주화단체들이 해산하고 있는데 그 이유가 뭔지, 그리고 잘 모르겠지만 그 민주화운동 내에서도 스펙트럼이 있을 것 같고, 또 하나 이 홍콩 시위를 보면서 인상적이었던 거는 그 거대한 100만이 넘는 홍콩 시민들의 그 뜨거운 열정과 함께 간혹 등장하게 되는 그 미국 성조기나 영국 지배하에서의 그 어떤 그 시절을 그리워하는 그 메시지, 한국에서도 그게 잘 소개되고 있는데, 이런 문제에 대한 영국과 미국의 어떤 홍콩 시위에 대한 태도, 개입, 이 문제에 대한 것도 예민할 것 같은데 좀 듣고 싶다.
Yeah, I think firstly about the disbandment, I think one have to understand the background in a way that about the National People Congress disqualifying Legislative Council. So they DQ'd, what we call DQ, the disqualification. They DQ'd some of the Legislative Councillor, and to show that there are certain action of those councillors they do not like. And that's the first background. And the second background is that if you want to go for election, they can also disqualify the candidates. So they disqualify the Legislative Council, they disqualify the candidate. So some candidate will think if they belong to certain political party, they will for sure be disqualified. So why don't they disband the party and then try to take part in the election? So that's one explanation of one of the group. The other will be if you call for Hong Kong independence, for sure you have to be disqualified, and that's for sure that you have to be dissolved. But most political parties do not dissolve themselves. So the Labour Party, the Democratic Party, the Civic Party, and the pro-democracy camp do not dissolve themselves. But those disbandment is because if they can disassociate with a political party that are seen to be calling for Hong Kong independence, then for sure they will be disqualified. So they have to get out. So that's the first question. The second question is about during I take the waiving of fact problem for us. I think my generation, as I explained, we hate the British selling out Hong Kong. But that's my generation. The new generation thought everything is good in the British time. And therefore there's a problem because they hate the Chinese Communist Party. They hate the suppression. So they believe that, oh, yeah, the British farm is better. So they wave the British flag, and to wave also the American flag because they want to say they believe that international support is very important, and then they want to ask the world to stand with Hong Kong. So they wave the American flag, they wave the British flag, and of course for us we do not feel comfortable at all waving those flags, because we should be the movement is from Hong Kong. If you wave those flags, they think that the movement is from outside, which fall into the conspiracy theory of the Chinese Communist Party. The Communist Party always said that it's a foreign intervention, and so it's very nonsensical to wave that, to fall into that conspiracy theory. But as I've said, the whole movement, they copy water. Sometimes you cannot stop anything. They are water, and everyone doing their own thing. There are no central leadership, and therefore we cannot help it. But in a way, we are even more disappointed, ashamed also personally, that many people want Trump to become continual president. And it had become a big debate in Hong Kong. Everyone is spreading fake news about the Trump election. And then that is even more serious. But everyone is signing with Trump because they thought that Trump is the only one that can tackle China, Xi Jinping. And that is very, I think it arises sort of, in a way, helplessness or hopelessness in Hong Kong. They want to grab at something so that they can have hope. And therefore, sadly, they grab at this, foreign country, foreign government thing.
독립하라고 하는 거는 독립하라고 하는 홍콩 독립을 주장한 좀 더 강경한 세력을 말하는 거죠. 예.
강경한 세력. 예.
그 사람들은 오히려 정당도 해산시킬 거기 때문에 오히려 바깥에서 나와서 무소속이나 이렇게 준비를 한다, 이 말씀인 거죠.
네네네.
어쨌든 어젠가 오늘자에 한국 뉴스에서도 중국 전인대 상무위원회에서 홍콩 선거법 개편안을 통과시켰다라고 뉴스가 나오더라. 그 송환법, 보안법, 선거법 이렇게 쭉 이어져 오고 있는 것으로 알고 있는데 지금 현재 그 내용은 모른다. 홍콩 선거법을 어떻게 계약을 해서 더욱더 이제 이 민주화 진영들의 목소리를 쪼으려고 하는지 그 내용을 좀 소개시켜주고 이것에 대한 우리 리치기안 선생이나 민주화 시위 진영의 어떤 대응 방안들은 고민은 어디에 있는지 듣고 싶다.
Yeah, no, that's the other measure taken by the Communist Party to exercise total control. Their slogan of introducing this election change is patriot ruling Hong Kong. Patriot. So, but they define patriot, of course, as loyal to the Communist Party. We define patriot, of course, differently. You love your country, or you also love the people, and you love the rights of the people. But of course, they are different. Their patriotism is only loving the Communist Party. So they define that. So only patriot can rule Hong Kong, and therefore Legislative Council only patriot can take part. So how did they do that? It's so drastic, very drastic changes. Imagine now, as I've explained, 50% functional constituency. Already many businessmen, many Communist Party controlled groups have already a seat. The other 50% direct election with proportional representation. So with proportional representation, they already ensure that we cannot get all the 30s because they're proportional. But they are afraid that we get a majority, adding the two together. And therefore, now it's a system like this, half, 50% direct election. So the future is they reinstall what they call election committee. So it's a very a lot of groups can elect representative, and all this group after the election, their own election, will all control. Most of them controlled by the Communist Party. So make sure that the majority, 80%, are controlled by the Communist Party in this election committee. And therefore, when you have an election committee, the new system, 90 seats, 40 to the election committee, 30 to the functional constituency, 20 to the direct election. So from 50%, it becomes 22% of direct election. So imagine the damage to Hong Kong when it's a total regression from 50% to 20. We want 50% to 100% direct election. Now they are getting it to 22%. And there's one more, even more evil, I would say. They have what they call political vetting committee. So if you want to take part in election, now it's vetted by the Hong Kong government now. So they have already disqualified candidate, even now. But in the future, they said that, oh no, they will set up a political vetting committee. And of course,
political what?
Vetting, screening, political screening committee to screen out candidates they don't like. So this political screening committee of the installed by the Communist Party. And therefore, the problem now is the number direct election had gone down drastically. And even if you want to participate, you have to be politically screened. And then they may say that, oh, you are still a patriot. Then you can stand for election. So most of the opposition cannot stand for election, or almost 100%, unless you, change side. If you, as a democratic social activist today, you change side and say, oh, I surrender. I love the Communist Party. I love the country. And then you may get into election. But what's the meaning of that election if the candidates are all already chosen by the Communist Party? So it's a very Communist Party way of election. The National People's Congress, the same. Though it's an election, but all already chosen to be the candidate. So the Communist Party in the future choose the candidate, and then you go for vote. So the whole system is collapsed completely. No free election anymore. And that's exactly the problem now in Hong Kong, is that they want to go to the extent of, as they said, they want the total control. So then political prosecution, national security law, and then election change, all three together, is a total control.
예, 그렇네요. 자, 먼저 대충 시간이 좀 많이 됐으니까 한 두 가지 정도로, 그러니까 하나 질문하고 미얀마하고 아까 민주화 스펙트럼 환기시켜주는 걸로 하겠습니다. 아까 말씀하셨던 우리 이채경 선생님 세대의 고민, 그다음 중국에 대한 새로운 10대, 20대 세대들이 중국을 바라보는 것이 훨씬 더 암울하고 영국과 미국을 오히려 선망하는 정서라고 했다. 홍콩의 공산당 정부도 오히려 그렇기 때문에 이런 10대, 20대들에 대한 어떤 뭐라고 하죠? 애국교육, 이걸 강조하고 있는 것 같은데요. 특히 이거는 뭐 홍콩만이 아니라 태국이나 미얀마 등에서도 이런 젊은 세대가 민주화운동에 아주 적극적으로 나서고 있기 때문에 더더욱 그런 것 같다. 근데 문제는 결국 홍콩과 중국 베이징 정부와의 관계가 어떻게 정립되어 들어가는지가 결국은 가를 것 같다. 뭐 독립이냐 아니냐부터 해가지고. 그래서 이 홍콩과 결국 이 베이징 중앙정부와의 관계는 어떤 방향으로 가야 된다고 우리 이채관 선생님 보시는지 궁금하다. 앞에 이야기, 뒤에 이야기, 묶어서 해주십시오.
Ideal relationship. Yeah, I think when you talk about ideal, of course, the first ideal I have is that China become democratized. And when China become democratized, then the relationship can be more equal. I mean, both are elected government, and maybe under a federation of provinces, and sort of a united, a federation of different provinces, and all democratized. Of course, that's the ideal, but China democracy is so far away, and then the human rights so far away. And then the problem with Hong Kong is not like Myanmar, not like Thailand. Myanmar and Thailand, they are fighting against their own government. We are fighting against China, not our government. But now China has become our government in a way. So, but then it's so, but China is so powerful. I think in terms of military, technology, everything is so powerful. So we have a very big problem in fighting this this big powerful regime that are authoritarian. But for us, the ideal is that for them to democratize. So we believe that not just it's not just Hong Kong is fighting. Also, Tibet, Xinjiang, Chinese human rights defender, Chinese democracy activists, they are also fighting. And therefore, the hope lies in this fight of all the people inside China and Hong Kong. And then we share the same fate, the same destiny, and we share the same struggle. So I always say that we need to support also democracy movement in China, which sometimes the younger generation do not want to do. They say that I don't care about China, but then I always tell them that you don't have to be identified as a Chinese. The identity you can say that you are not Chinese. That's not my problem. But one must strategically, even not out of loving China, but strategically we have to side with the oppressed and inside China to fight for their democracy and human rights. And therefore, to the young generation, we always invite them also to support our work, also to support labor organization in China and also democracy organization in China.
자, 정리를 해야겠죠? 그러면 간단하게 지금 한국에서 가장 또 많은 관심을 가지고 있는 게 이전에 홍콩의 민주화 시위, 태국 민주화 시위 등 못지않게 이제 미얀마에서 벌어지고 있는 이 군부 정권의 탄압과 학살, 또 인민들의 싸움이다. 홍콩에서도 그런 데 대한 어떤 반응들, 연대 의지가 있는지 요거 하나 하고 마지막으로 한국의 시민들과 노동자들에게 전하고 싶은 메시지가 있으면 좀 남겨달라.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think of course people of Hong Kong, you can say that they see themselves in Myanmar situation. Of course, there's a lot of bloodshed, even more brutal than the Hong Kong situation when the suppression is now getting a lot of people, a few hundred people killed already. But then in a way, the people of Hong Kong in the Facebook, they share a lot of views, news, and the image of the Burmese people fighting back. And in the CTU, we are really very much encouraged and by the fact that the Myanmar CTUM and other union had gone on strike, and economic sabotage is a way. Actually, we have done that back in 2019, but with 350,000 people going on rally during that strike, the day of the strike. But I think the problem in Hong Kong is that it's only one day or one off. It's not a very long period of strike. But I think Myanmar, they have a longer period of strike that really can hurt the economy. So we are watching that very closely and really admiring and that the courage of the workers in Myanmar on that. But there are not many street action now in Hong Kong. The problem in Hong Kong now, I have another charge that I have not shared with you. It's a very funny charge. I was jailed for 14 days, but with a suspension of 18 months. 18-month suspension. I was jailed for 14 days because of very stupid rule and ban, what they call the COVID-19 ban of gathering regulation. Not more than 4 people can gather. And we have 8 people during May Day. last year, only 8 people, 4 in a group with 1.5 meter of social distancing. But the judge said that even if you have 1.5 meter of social distancing, you still had breached the rule. And therefore, I was, sentenced. Originally, the fine is only $2,000. If I pay $2,000, I don't have to go to the imprisonment term. But it's not really jail yet. But they said 14 months of suspension. But then I want to fight because we believe that is our constitutional right to assemble. But I lost that, so I'm not appealing on that. It's so funny that my first jail criminal sentence is so little, so minute, and 14 days only. But why I give you this example is that now it's very difficult for people in Hong Kong to protest. Only 4 people allowed, and therefore we cannot do much to support Myanmar situation. And the CTU had passed a resolution calling upon our affiliate to donate to the ITUC fund to support the family of the strikers. So CTU is going to raise funds to support, but action on the street is not easy now.
Yeah.
And to the Korean, finally to the Korean people, firstly, we are very much moved by the support the Korean people had on Hong Kong during the 2019 year, but now the situation in Hong Kong is even worse than that of 2019, and that we need the support of the Korean people even now more because of the suppression that we are facing with the national security law and the election changes. So I hope that the Korean people will still stand with Hong Kong, understand the situation, and also try to give a voice to the people of Hong Kong in the future. Mika, I cannot say much because that will be international collusion with foreign power.
예, 하여튼 긴 시간 바쁘신데 시간 내주셔서 감사하고 내일 재판에서 반드시 리치기안 선생님이 승리하기를 기원한다 이 말씀 드리면서 오늘 마무리했으면 좋겠습니다. 마무리합시다.
Yes, thank you. I also hope that I have victory, not because I'm afraid of going to jail, but because I want to have a few days of holiday before going to jail, because now it's the Easter holiday for Hong Kong, and I have so many things to do. And but my next trial is on April 7th. So even I can win in this case, I don't think I can win in April 7th. So, but I hope I have more time to talk to you all in this few days. So I can use my time better in this few days, not to be in jail. And then I go to jail after that. Okay, thank you, Mika.
Thank you.
Thank you.